The animator's job is to analyze performance, analyze every detail of it, and make sure it's coming across.
It was very important for us to make sure that whatever Zoe did, whatever Sam did, actually came through their avatars onto the screen and played as convincingly as when they were on the stage.
You take a character like Neytiri, and the idea is that the audience just has to fall in love with this character. When she smiles, there has to be a connection between her smile and the audience.
It really is a collaboration. It's working with the actors and then working with the animators to bring the character to the screen.
I see you.
I see you.
We have to figure out how to maintain that integrity, maintain that performance, so that the characters you see on the screen are really what the performance was intended to be.
We had the actors on set at Weta Digital. We scanned them with our own software, and that's when we were able to take 60, 70 different fax poses from them, default states, eyes looking left and right, up and down. Any kind of data we could get from the actor just to make sure that the eyes really did feel like Zoe and Sam.
The eye motion and the eyes, it's something that's kind of overlooked in a lot of animation films. Our eyes work independently of our bodies and our heads. They also do these little subtle movements. That was another thing we looked for with the reference. It's one of the reasons why the eyes came to life in Avatar. We studied all those details and we made sure they were in there. We made sure Neytiri's eyes were locked on Jake when she was arguing with him.
What are you saying, Jake? You knew this would happen?
Yes.
But the real trick to it was figuring out what they call the rig. And the rig is how they program the facial muscles to work. And we all have the same facial muscles, but they're in different proportions, and the way in which they fire, meaning how your brain controls your face, is different for every person. And this took months and months for each character, and it had to be done individually for each character.
I will stand and fight.
The reference cameras play an integral part in how we evaluate, study the detail within each performance. As good as our facial capture system is, if we really wanted to just see the subtleties on somebody's face, there's nothing better than just seeing a close-up, high-def video of that.
They live, Jake. Within Awa.
The stress with the animators was to actually animate to the reference camera, and then we'd make sure the performance looks the same, or all the details are in there.
Navia. Luyo.
And then we go back to the actual shot camera and see if there's anything lost. Usually you had gained a lot by doing that.
85% of this is taking from the actors their performances and preserving them in their computer-generated characters.
I see you.
I see you.
But that last 15% requires animators to come in and add things like the tail and the ears. You had to study cat and dog and other animal behavior and incorporate that into how the ears moved, how the tails moved. We studied lions, and we incorporated that into our character. So in a way, the animation is a turbocharger on top of this whole facial capture idea.
You should not be here.
When Neytiri is furious with Jake, her ears flatten out and her tail's going back and forth. So there's a total character that's created. The animators have taken what the actors are doing and gone even beyond that. And it's a lot of fun to watch.
How you feeling, Jake?
Hey, guys. It is my performance. This thing walks and talks and acts like me. And it's my interpretation. Even though I'm big, 9 foot tall and blue, it's got my personality. It's got my soul.
By the numbers.
Jake, listen to me. You're not used to your avatar body.
This is dangerous.
This is great.
Zoe really enjoys watching the footage of her as Neytiri, because Neytiri is this creature that's of her, created by her, but it's apart from her as well.
She looked so sexy. She was so cut and long and lean. I was like, damn.
The first sequence that we turned over to Weta Digital, we turned over in February of 2007. We did not get it back until May of 2008.
Those first shots that I finaled, which was the scene where we first see Neytiri and she draws the bow and the wood sprite comes down and lands, they were so gorgeous that all of a sudden it was this moment of, holy crap, that looks real. She looks completely real. And then we just sit there and go, hey, look at that. Finaling those first 10 or 11 shots in that scene was absolutely critical. That's the moment where we knew this movie was going to work. We didn't know yet if we could get all the other 2,600 shots done, but we knew we could make a real character.
We were cutting the whole movie together, and in the summer of 2008, a full year and a half before the movie was released, we sat down for the first time to watch a full cut of the then existing movie. And the movie at that time was very, very long.
So the film was like a mosaic of scenes that were in various stages. So you'd have scenes that were in a pre-cut and then something that was in a virtual camera cut next to something that was turned over 6 months ago that was in animation level, and it was hard to watch. We had to cut the film shorter because it wasn't quite gelling up. It always felt too long making its points, and I kept surgically taking little bits out here and there. And, you know, we eventually wound up cutting out about 40 minutes of film from the time we first screened it for ourselves a year earlier to the time we finished the cut.
There was a point where we had been hoping to just be able to handle the whole film ourselves. But Jim handed us a cut that was about 45 minutes longer than the one that got released. And it still had a lot of character work in it. We said, okay, if we focus only on this character work, that's more work than we thought we were going to be doing, and it's too late for us to gear up to do the other work.
We made the decision to pull work in late 2008, but we didn't get the approval to do it until spring of 2009. So these shots were just lying in wait, the work building up, Jim stressing out about it.
Yeah, okay, so you still have some tech work to do on contact, shadows, and reflection. And it was a nail-biter. The whole movie was a nail-biter in terms of getting things done, because we were always missing these deadlines that we kind of made up out of nowhere. Let's do this by this date. Because we sort of knew if we didn't do that by that date, we wouldn't get this done over here.
ILM took the most number of shots and the most complicated shots, and their shots had to seamlessly fit in with Weta's work in the end battle. Other sequences were standalone sequences, where we would get companies like Hydraulics, Frame Store, or Hybrid, and the other visual effects vendor.
Fire. 3, 2, 1, action!
Basically, for the last part, we were kind of in a marathon run. We couldn't back off the throttle. And we actually went back and shot a little more live action again later after our last capture. So it sort of went capture, live action, a lot of capture, little tiny bit of live action at the end.
The first time that we actually showed it to a large group of people was Cinema Expo, which is an exhibitors convention in Amsterdam. We argued about what content to include. And there was a concern that we were including too much of the Fern Gully elements of the film. In particular, the scene where the wood sprites land on Jake. We decided that we were going to keep it in. And we presented this in Amsterdam to a mixed audience, 3,500 people. The response was remarkable. That was really when it proved to us that you could not just sell this movie in 30-second bites. More of this movie was more. We went out and we did Comic-Con, where we showed an abbreviated version of what we showed at Cinema Expo.
Are you ready to go to Pandora? All right, then let's go.
There were some concerns at the studio that the reaction wasn't big enough. I thought it went perfectly. It was a great introduction to an audience.
Still, they were dealing more with the 3D and with the CG. They weren't dealing with the film as a narrative. They weren't dealing with it as a story. So we were introducing them to what the film might be.
We don't want you to know until December 18th. We want you to still hold back something for the fun of the voyage.
And then John Lando and I came up with this idea to do Avatar Day.
Avatar Day was where we went out and we took over theaters and we invited audience members to come for free to see 15 minutes of the movie in 3D around the world. It was interesting. The trailer for the film went out the day before, and the trailer got a very mixed response.
There was this sense of, well, what's all the fuss about? This looks like, you know, Smurfs or Thundercats or whatever. And pretty soon they're ripping us a new one on the internet, 7,500 comments long about how bad this movie is and how it's doomed to fail.
I did press for another film on Avatar Day, and all those guys were bagging the movie because they'd just seen the little kind of trailer on the TV. That was a hard thing to stand there and defend, but I'll defend this product all the way. You know, and Jim just said, we just stand by what we do and keep telling the story.
But the Avatar Day footage, when people went and saw it in the theater, and didn't see it in a 1.5 or a 2-minute trailer, but saw 15 minutes of the movie, the response was overwhelming.
Are you ready to rock? Yeah. All right, cool.
I remember in the last year before the release of the film, I think I got about 5 or 6 days off in a year between doing the sound, doing the music, doing the visual effects, working with all the different teams that were working on the finish. It was unbelievable.
And we did video conferencing, so Jim could actually physically point out something. And we would spend hours, if not days, in these review sessions. And oftentimes, we would schedule multiple ones in one day, where we would schedule the crews that were in London in the early morning, because it was already there late night.
Tim, how you doing?
Morning, good time.
Yeah. What time is it there? It must be fairly late.
We would schedule the crews that were in California at midday, and we would schedule in the afternoon Weta, because it was now just their morning.
It's still boiling here, and then we essentially kind of run out of it to what is now 100% Pandoran atmosphere.
One of the biggest challenges on this movie was James Horner's. How do you create music for a world that doesn't exist? Jim wanted him and challenged him to combine indigenous sounds into a traditional cinematic score. He came to the set when we were filming the scenes that had the music. He had to create music early on so that we could play it back during certain scenes.
The first thing James did on this film was bring in an ethnomusicologist and start collecting sounds, vocal sounds, and various different instruments from around the world.
Initially, the music was a lot more ethnically based. There were lots of people playing stuff. The art department drew about 12 or 15 ethnic percussion instruments that these people would play. And so I was tasked with writing songs for these instruments. And all of that had to be done before things were shot, because obviously the actors had to do the motion capture for that stuff. What I did was I sampled a lot of interesting instruments. And then I worked with them electronically to get an effect that was different than the instrument could make, but that had a kind of a weird spectral quality that made it sound like you really haven't heard it before, but it doesn't sound quite human either.
Bringing for Kapa Kose Mawe, Ta, Ka, Tane.
And they were two women that just are professional singers, and they just pinched off their voice to sound like sort of half African, half Navi, children, adult.
Tane, Tane.
A couple of days went by where we didn't really keep anything that was sung. It was just getting the right sound.
We can get one good one.
No, we trust your ears.
Yeah.
Paul Frommer was the guy who invented the language, and I asked him to write me syllables and consonants that I could use when my people were singing.
Ah. Oh. Oh.
I was true to the...
And I think it's incredibly powerful. And I think he gets to these amazing kind of spiritual moments. He gets to these huge, epic, heroic moments. Which, by the way, there are a number of composers who can do that epic, heroic thing. But to integrate that all organically and always tell the audience exactly what they should be feeling without trying to force them to feel it. It should always accentuate beyond what you're already predisposed to feel.
Movies aren't made by one person, they're made by a big group of people. And, there's got to be one, idiot that kind of charges out front and says, come on, guys, let's go. But then after that, you're putting up on the screen as a result of a team, and in this case, we're going to put a movie out there that's going to look amazing no matter, what version you see it in. But we can know in our hearts that we made a great film. So I think you guys should give up a little round of applause for yourselves.
Jim said that we would solve our last problem on the last day we delivered the movie. And that held true.
Jim looks at every phase of production and says,
just to put the glasses on and start that movie and be taken right into space and right to Pandora. It was so visceral. It was so exciting. And I'd never been taken literally, it felt, to another world. I wasn't prepared for, first of all, how powerful the emotional story was and how subliminal the effects were. It was seamless. And I just forgot all the work that had gone into it and was just transported.
After the fact, where people started sort of criticizing the film's take on the military or corporate America. And I thought, well, that's fine. Those comments are there in the film for a reason. So if it provokes a reaction, that's great. That's what it's supposed to do.
I think we're living in a day and age now where we realize what we're doing to this planet. It's right in the forefront of a lot of people's minds.
You young people are going to have to accept this responsibility. It's your lives.
This movie's basically saying, let's just stop for a minute and take a damn look at what we're doing to this world. It seems quite simple. By doing something you can make a change. It just comes down to your choices in life. It seems like the Na'vi have discovered that, how to live with one with their planet and live with one with all their insecurities. That to me is the message of the movie. It's never too late to change. It's never too late to make a better choice.
I've been asked to be here to help them raise this voice, raise this cry, and to be a part of this very, very important moment and this very important battle.
This movie has sent those messages out in a very profound way, and we all, I think, collectively have been touched by them.
Jim has gone to such great lengths to not only trying to say, suspend your disbelief, he's trying to say, be here, experience this.
I love the fact that I'm part of a project that's always going to be remembered or thought of as a very significant moment in the history of film.
It feels really, really good to have been a part of something so special and to have worked with people that were so passionate about something that we all just held together and gave it our all. And it's a really good family to belong to. And that's what thrills me, is the fact that throughout history, we're stamped. And nobody can take that away. Like, it did happen, and it did conquer, and it feels great.
Whatever one thinks of the movie, I know what we accomplished in solving these technical challenges. I know that we were able to take from the actors their beautiful, amazing performances and preserve them in their computer-generated characters. And that was my biggest goal.
See the world we come from. There's no green there. They killed their mother. And they're gonna do the same here.
The question remains, how much does a piece of entertainment, a movie, actually change the way people act? One can hope that people feel that little twinge of conscience, that little sense of responsibility. It can only be a movement in the right direction. I just don't want to feel that I'm going through this process of making these movies just entertaining people and it has no higher purpose. I'll settle for a small change,